Original. When my uncle sent me that video, I felt my whole world tilt on its axis. Paraphrased. My uncle's video completely upended my world. Original. There they were, my parents and my brother Thomas, sitting around our old kitchen table in Phoenix talking about me as if I was nothing more than a burden. Paraphrased. I watched my parents and brother Thomas at our old kitchen table in Phoenix, discussing me as if I were a mere burden. Original. The familiar Arizona sun streamed through the windows, casting a warm glow that felt like a mockery of the cold words being spoken. Paraphrased. The warm Arizona sunshine pouring through the windows seemed to mock the harsh words I heard them say. Original. Lindsay only helps because she owes us, my mother said, her voice dripping with contempt. Paraphrased. My mother's voice, full of disdain, declared, Lindsay is just helping us because she's obligated. Original. After everything we've done for her, paying the mortgage is the least she can do, my brother Thomas chimed in with a smirk. Paraphrased. With a smirk, my brother Thomas added, she's just doing the bare minimum by paying the mortgage, considering all we've done for her. Original. Yeah, and she acts like she's doing us some huge favor. What a joke. Paraphrased. He scoffed, saying, and she acts like it's some big gesture. It's ridiculous. Original. The worst part was my father's quiet nod of agreement. Paraphrased. What stung the most was my father's silent nod in agreement. Original. The man who had once taught me to ride a bike and helped me with my math homework now sat there allowing them to tear me down. Paraphrased. The very man who had once taught me how to ride my bike and helped me with my homework was now just sitting there, letting them criticize me. Original. The video was shaky, clearly taken without their knowledge, but their words came through crystal clear. Paraphrased. Though the video was shaky, obviously recorded without their awareness, their words were perfectly clear. Original. I watched it 3 times, each viewing filling me with a strange mix of numbness and clarity. Paraphrased. I replayed the video 3 times, and with each viewing, I felt both a strange numbness and a sharp sense of clarity. Original. For the past 4 years, I've been making substantial payments on their mortgage through my LLC, Divine Investments. Paraphrased. I'd been secretly covering most of their mortgage payments for the last 4 years using my company, Divine Investments. Original. They thought they were making payments to a bank, never bothering to read the fine print of the agreement my financial advisor had helped arrange. Paraphrased. They were under the impression they were paying a bank, since they'd never bothered to read the fine print of the agreement that my financial advisor had set up. Original. Every month they made their small contribution while I covered the bulk of the payment, all while they complained about my minimal help. Paraphrased. Each month they made their small payment while I took care of the rest, and they still complained about how little I helped. Original. My Uncle Jason's message came right after, you needed to see this, Lindsay. I couldn't stay quiet anymore. They've been talking like this for months. Paraphrased. My Uncle Jason messaged me right afterward saying, you needed to see this, Lindsay. I couldn't keep this a secret any longer. They've been saying these things for months. Original. I sat in my home office, staring at the spreadsheets detailing every payment I'd made. Paraphrased. In my home office, I sat and looked at spreadsheets that meticulously listed every single payment I had made. Original. The numbers didn't lie. Over $200,000 invested in keeping them comfortable in that house. Paraphrased. The numbers were irrefutable. I had invested more than $200,000 to ensure they could stay in their home. Original. My hands should have been shaking with anger, but instead they were steady as I pulled up the mortgage agreement. Paraphrased. I should have been shaking with rage, but instead my hands were steady as I pulled up the mortgage agreement. Original. A small smile played at my lips as I remembered the purchase option clause my financial advisor had insisted on including, just in case. Paraphrased. I smiled slightly, remembering the purchase option clause my financial advisor had insisted we include, just as a precaution. Original. Looking back, I wonder if she knew something like this might happen. Paraphrased. In hindsight, I can't help but wonder if she had a premonition that something like this would happen. Original. The next payment was due in 2 weeks, and for the first time, I knew exactly what I needed to do. Paraphrased, the next payment was due in 2 weeks, and for the first time, I had a clear idea of my next step. Original. I picked up my phone and typed a simple message to my uncle. Thank you for showing me the truth. Don't worry, I won't let them know you sent this, but things are about to change. Paraphrased. I grabbed my phone and sent a short text to my uncle. Thank you for revealing the truth. Don't worry, I won't tell them you were the one who sent this. But get ready, because everything is about to be different. I've always been the family's safety net. Original. I've always been the family's safety net, though they'd never admit it. Paraphrased. I have always been the one to rescue my family, even though they would never acknowledge it. Original. 4 years ago, when the housing market in Phoenix crashed and they were on the verge of losing their home, I stepped in. Paraphrased. 4 years earlier, as the Phoenix housing market collapsed and they were close to losing their house, I intervened. Original. I was 27 then, already successful in my career as a software development manager. Paraphrased. At the age of 27, I was already a successful software development manager. Original. The irony was that they never approved of my career choice. They wanted me to take over my father's struggling real estate business instead. Paraphrased. Ironically, they never approved of my job and would have preferred that I take over my father's failing real estate company. Original. Software is no career for a woman, my mother would say, her lips pursed in disapproval. Paraphrased, my mother would frown and say, software is not a proper career for a woman. Original. Your brother, Thomas, is the one with the real business sense. Paraphrased, Thomas, your brother, is the one with the genuine talent for business. Original. Yet Thomas, with all his business sense, had nearly bankrupted the family company within 2 years of taking over. Paraphrased, in spite of his supposed business savvy, Thomas had almost run the family business into the ground in just 2 years. Original. When they needed help with the mortgage, I consulted my financial advisor, Kate. Paraphrased, when they needed help with their mortgage, I went to my financial advisor, Kate. Original. She suggested a creative solution: create an LLC, buy the house through it, and let them think they're still dealing with a bank. Paraphrased, she proposed a clever plan. I would create an LLC, buy the house through it, and allow them to believe they were still working with their bank. Original. That way, you protect yourself legally while helping them, she said. Paraphrased. She explained, this way you can help them while also protecting yourself legally. Original. It seemed perfect at the time. I could help without dealing with their pride. Paraphrased. The plan felt ideal. It allowed me to help them without having to confront their pride. Original. The arrangement worked smoothly. Divine Investments LLC became their mortgage holder, and I supplemented their monthly payments without them knowing. Paraphrased. Everything went according to plan. Divine Investments LLC took over their mortgage, and I secretly covered the difference in their monthly payments. Original. They maintained their dignity, and I kept my family stable. Paraphrased, they could keep their pride intact, and I could ensure my family remained financially stable. Original. My Uncle Jason was the only one who knew the truth, having overheard Kate and me discussing it at a family gathering. Paraphrased, my Uncle Jason was the only one who was aware of the truth, as he had overheard Kate and me discussing it at a family gathering. Original. You're too good to them, Lindsay, he'd said then. They don't deserve your kindness. Paraphrased. He had said, you're far too kind to them, Lindsay. They don't deserve your generosity. Original. I defended them, of course. They're family. They might not understand my choices, but they've always given me a home. Paraphrased. Naturally, I defended them, saying, they're my family. They may not agree with my decisions, but they've always provided a home for me. Original. Now, watching that video for the 4th time, I realized how wrong I'd been. Paraphrased, but watching that video for the 4th time made me realize how mistaken I had been all along. Original. Their words played on repeat in my mind. She owes us. What a joke, the least she can do. Paraphrased. Their words echoed in my head. She owes us. What a joke, the least she can do. Original. each phrase felt like a knife, twisting deeper. Paraphrased, each phrase was like a knife, twisting deeper and deeper. Original. I opened my laptop and logged into the LLC's account. Paraphrased. I opened my laptop and signed into the LLC's account. Original. The next mortgage payment was due on the 15th, just 2 weeks away. Paraphrased. The next mortgage payment was due in just 2 weeks, on the 15th. Original. They had never been late before, always transferring their portion like clockwork. Paraphrased. They had never been late before. They always made their portion of the payment on time. Original. But now, knowing how they really felt, I had no intention of covering the rest this time. Paraphrased. Now that I knew their true feelings, I had no intention of making up the rest of the payment. Original. Let them face the consequences of their ingratitude. Paraphrased. I was going to let them deal with the consequences of their lack of gratitude. Original. Let them deal with the bank on their own. Paraphrased. Let them handle the bank by themselves. Original. They had no idea that their daughter, the worthless burden, was actually their landlord. Paraphrased. They were completely unaware that their daughter, the worthless burden, was actually their landlord. Original. The thought brought a smile to my face. Paraphrased. Thinking about it made me smile. Original. Sometimes karma needs a little push. Paraphrased. I thought, sometimes you have to give karma a little nudge. The final act. Original. The video wasn't the end of it. My Uncle Jason sent me more evidence the next day. Screenshots of family group chat messages I'd been deliberately excluded from. Paraphrased. The video was just the beginning. The next day, my Uncle Jason sent me more proof. Screenshots of a family group chat I had been intentionally left out of. Original. They'd created it 6 months ago, appropriately named Family Finances. Paraphrased. They had created the group 6 months ago and called it Family Finances. Original. Each message felt like another betrayal deeper than the last. Paraphrased. Each message felt like a new betrayal, more profound than the last. Original. Lindsay thinks she's so special with her tech job, Thomas had written. She barely helps with the mortgage while I'm here every day running Dad's business. Paraphrased. Thomas had written, Lindsay acts like her tech job makes her so special. She barely helps with the mortgage while I'm the one here every day managing Dad's business. Original. My mother's response made my blood run cold. We should ask her for more money. She's single with no kids. What else does she spend it on? After all we sacrificed to raise her, she can't even properly support her family. Paraphrased. My mother's reply chilled me to the bone. We should ask her for more money. She's single and has no kids. So what is she spending her money on? We sacrificed so much to raise her. The least she can do is properly support her family. Original. I pulled up my financial records, hands trembling slightly as I calculated the total. Paraphrased. My hands shook slightly as I pulled up my financial records to calculate the total amount. Original. Over the past 4 years, I'd contributed $267,843 toward their mortgage through Divine Investments, while they had only paid $52,500. Paraphrased. In the last 4 years, I had paid $267,843 toward their mortgage through Divine Investments, while their contribution was only $52,500. Original. Their monthly payments to the bank were the bulk of the mortgage. They had no idea I was covering the additional $5,400 every month. Paraphrased. They thought their monthly payments were for the majority of the mortgage. They had no idea I was paying an extra $5,400 each month. Original. My phone buzzed. Message from my mother. Sweetie, could you come to dinner this Sunday? We need to discuss something important. Paraphrased. My phone vibrated with a text from my mother. Sweetheart, can you come for dinner on Sunday? We need to talk about something important. Original. I knew exactly what that something was. They were planning to ask for more money, probably with emotional manipulation and guilt tripping as side dishes. Paraphrased. I knew exactly what they wanted to talk about. They were going to ask for more money, probably with a side of emotional manipulation and guilt-tripping. Original. The thought of sitting there, pretending I didn't know what they really thought of me, made my stomach turn. Paraphrased, the idea of having to sit there and pretend I didn't know what they truly thought about me was sickening. Original, I called Kate, my financial advisor. Paraphrased, I called my financial advisor, Kate. Original, I need to know my options with the purchase agreement. I said. Paraphrased, I said, I need to find out what my options are with the purchase agreement. Original, I had a feeling you might, she said, not sounding surprised at all. Paraphrased, she replied, without a hint of surprise, I had a feeling you would. Original, remember that clause we included. If they miss a payment, Divine Investments can exercise the purchase option immediately. Paraphrased, do you remember the clause we added? If they miss a payment, Divine Investments can immediately exercise the purchase option. Original, the house would be yours outright, and they'd become month-to-month tenants. Paraphrased, the house would become completely yours, and they would become your tenants on a month-to-month basis. Original, a plan started forming in my mind. Paraphrased, I started to develop a plan. Original, and if they were late with rent, standard Arizona eviction laws would apply. You'd be within your rights to give them notice. She paused. Lindsay, are you sure you want to go this route? Paraphrased, she continued, and if they were to pay their rent late, standard Arizona eviction laws would apply, and you would be within your rights to give them notice. She then paused and asked, Lindsay, are you absolutely certain you want to take this path? Original, I thought about years of condescension, of being the family ATM while they mocked me behind my back. Paraphrased, I thought about years of condescending remarks, of being their personal ATM, all while they ridiculed me behind my back. Original, I thought about Thomas running our father's business into the ground while they praised his business sense. Paraphrased, I thought about Thomas destroying our father's business while they lauded his so-called business sense. Original, I thought about every snide comment about my career, my life choices, my supposed obligations to them. Paraphrased, I reflected on every sarcastic comment about my career, my life choices, and my supposed duties to them. Original, yes, I replied, my voice steady. I'm sure. Paraphrased, I said, my voice steady. Yes, I am sure. Original, but I won't tell them anything yet. Let them think everything's normal for now. Paraphrased, but I'm not going to tell them anything just yet. For now, let's let them think everything is fine. Original, I texted my mother back, of course, I'll come to dinner. Looking forward to it. Paraphrased, I texted my mother back, of course, I'll be there for dinner. I'm looking forward to it. Original, the heart emoji felt ironic but necessary. Paraphrased, the heart emoji felt contradictory but necessary. Original, after all, they taught me well. Sometimes the best revenge requires a perfect poker face. Paraphrased, I realized they had taught me a great lesson. Sometimes the best way to get revenge is to have a perfect poker face. Original, the next mortgage payment was due in 13 days, and for the first time since this arrangement began, I wouldn't be there to catch them when they fell. Paraphrased, the next mortgage payment was due in 13 days, and for the first time since this arrangement started, I would not be there to bail them out. The Sunday dinner. Original, Sunday dinner felt like an exercise in self-control. Paraphrased, the Sunday dinner was a test of my self-control. Original, I arrived at their Phoenix home exactly at 6 o'clock, the setting sun painting the desert landscape in shades of orange and purple. Paraphrased, I arrived at their Phoenix home at 6 p.m. exactly, just as the setting sun painted the desert landscape orange and purple. Original, the house, my house, technically looked exactly as it had for the past 20 years. Paraphrased, the house, which was technically mine, looked exactly the same as it had for the past 20 years. Original, the familiar scent of my mother's lasagna wafted through the air, a calculated choice meant to remind me of happier times. Paraphrased, my mother's lasagna filled the air with its familiar scent, a strategic move to remind me of happier memories. Original, Lindsay, sweetheart. My mother rushed to hug me. Her designer bracelet catching the light. Paraphrased, Lindsay. My sweet girl, my mother exclaimed as she rushed to hug me. Her designer bracelet glittering in the light. Original. I noticed it was new. Probably purchased with money they should have put toward their mortgage payment due in 9 days. Paraphrased. I noticed the bracelet was new and probably bought with money that should have gone toward their mortgage payment, which was due in 9 days. Original. Thomas sat at the dining table, looking smugger than usual in his pressed business casual attire. Paraphrased, Thomas was sitting at the dining table, looking even more smug than usual in his pressed business casual clothes. Original. Hey, sis, good of you to make time for your family. Paraphrased, he said, hey, sis. Thanks for taking the time to see your family. Original. I smiled, remembering his message about me barely helping. Paraphrased, remembering his message about how little I was helping. I smiled. Original. If he only knew that his entire lifestyle depended on my generosity. Paraphrased, he had no idea that his entire lifestyle was a result of my generosity. Original. I always have time for family, I replied, the irony thick in my throat. Paraphrased, I always make time for family, I replied, the sarcasm palpable in my voice. Original. My father emerged from his study, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Paraphrased, my father came out of his study with his reading glasses resting on his nose. Original. He was reviewing some papers that I glimpsed were bank statements. The sight nearly made me laugh. Paraphrased, I saw that he was looking at some bank statements. The sight almost made me laugh. Original. They were preparing their pitch carefully. Paraphrased, they were carefully getting ready to ask for money. Original. Before we eat, my mother began setting down the lasagna. We wanted to talk about something important. Paraphrased, my mother put down the lasagna and began, before we eat, we wanted to discuss something important. Original. She glanced at my father, who nodded encouragingly. Paraphrased, she looked at my father, who gave an encouraging nod. Original, of course, I said, serving myself a portion. What's on your mind? Paraphrased, I served myself a portion and said, of course. What do you need to talk about? Original. Thomas cleared his throat. Well, as you know, Dad's business has been facing some challenges. The real estate market isn't what it used to be. Paraphrased, Thomas cleared his throat and said, well, as you know, Dad's business has been struggling. The real estate market is not what it once was. Original. I took a bite of lasagna. Chewing slowly. Paraphrased, I took a slow bite of the lasagna. Original. The business had been facing challenges ever since Thomas took over, despite the Phoenix market being stronger than ever. Paraphrased, the business had been in trouble ever since Thomas took over, even though the Phoenix market was actually stronger than ever. Original. We've been thinking, my mother continued, reaching for my hand across the table, about how blessed we are to have such a successful daughter. Your father and I sacrificed so much to give you a good education. Paraphrased, my mother reached for my hand and continued, we've been thinking about how lucky we are to have such a successful daughter. Your father and I gave up a lot to make sure you had a good education. Original. I watched her performance with newfound clarity. The gentle touch, the reminder of their sacrifices, it was all so carefully choreographed. Paraphrased, I watched her performance with a new sense of understanding. The gentle touch and the reminder of their sacrifices were all so carefully planned. Original. The mortgage payment has become quite a burden, my father added, his voice carrying that particular tone of paternal authority he'd always used to make me feel small. Paraphrased, my father added, the mortgage payment has become a real burden, using the same authoritative tone he always used to make me feel unimportant. Original. And with you doing so well in your computer work ... single quotes. Paraphrased, and since you're doing so well in your computer job ... single quotes. Original. Software development. I corrected automatically, though they'd never bothered to understand the difference. Paraphrased, software development. I corrected them without even thinking, even though they had never cared to know the difference. Original. Right. He waved dismissively. Well, we thought perhaps you could help more with the monthly payments. After all, this is your family home too, paraphrased. Right, he said, waving his hand to dismiss the point. Well, we thought maybe you could help more with the monthly payments since this is also your family home. Original. If they only knew how much of it was already mine. Paraphrased. They had no idea how much of the house already belonged to Emmy. Original. We're only asking for an extra $2,000 a month, my mother added quickly. It's not much, considering your salary. Paraphrased. My mother quickly added, we're just asking for an extra $2,000 a month, which isn't much when you think about your salary. Original. I took another bite of lasagna, using the moment to maintain my composure. Paraphrased. I took another bite of the lasagna, using the time to keep my composure. Original. They wanted $2,000 more when they didn't even know I was already paying over $5,000. The audacity was almost impressive. Paraphrased. They were asking for an extra $2,000, not knowing I was already paying over $5,000. Their nerve was almost commendable. Original. I'll think about it, I said finally, my voice neutral. Times are a bit uncertain right now. Paraphrased. My voice was neutral as I finally said, I'll consider it. Things are a bit uncertain right now. Original. Uncertain. Thomas scoffed. Please, we all know you're doing fine, unlike some of us who are actually working hard to keep this family's legacy alive. Paraphrased. Uncertain. Thomas scoffed. Come on, we all know you're doing well, unlike some of us who are actually trying to keep this family's legacy going. Original. I smiled, thinking about the notification their bank would send when they missed their payment. Next week. Paraphrased. I smiled, thinking about the notification their bank would send when they missed their payment the following week. Original. You're right, Thomas, I said. Sometimes we all get exactly what we deserve. Paraphrased. I said. You're right, Thomas. Sometimes we all get exactly what we deserve. Original. After dinner, I excused myself to use the bathroom, but took a deliberate detour past my father's study. Paraphrased. After dinner, I said I was going to use the bathroom, but I purposefully walked past my father's study instead. Original. The door was ajar, and I could hear my parents and Thomas talking in hushed voices. Paraphrased. The door was slightly open and I could hear my parents and Thomas talking in quiet whispers. Original. I paused, my heart pounding as their words drifted out. Paraphrased. My heart pounded as I paused to listen to their conversation. Original. She's not going to help, Thomas said, his voice bitter. Paraphrased. Thomas's voice was bitter as he said, she's not going to help. Original. Did you see how she just sat there, acting all superior with her tech money while her business is struggling? Paraphrased. Did you see how she sat there, acting all high and mighty with her tech money while her business is failing? Original. Patience, my father replied. We have another option. Remember those investment documents I found in her cloud storage when she used our Wi-Fi last month? Paraphrased. My father replied, be patient. We have another choice. Do you remember those investment documents I discovered in her cloud storage when she was using our Wi-Fi last month? Original. She's been hiding money from us in some company called Divine Investments. Paraphrased. She's been keeping money from us in some company called Divine Investments. Original. My blood ran cold. They'd snooped through my files during my last visit. Paraphrased. A wave of cold shock washed over me. They had gone through my personal files during my last visit. Original. I'd carelessly used their Wi-Fi without a VPN, and my cloud storage had synced automatically. Paraphrased. I had carelessly used their Wi-Fi without a VPN, and my cloud storage had automatically synced. Original. I looked it up. My father continued. It's a legitimate LLC. And it's doing very well. She's been squirreling away money there instead of helping her family. Paraphrased. My father went on. I looked it up. It's a real LLC, and it's doing very well. She's been hoarding money in there instead of helping her family. Original. I raised a snake. Paraphrased. My mother's voice joined in. Original. We'll give her one more chance to help voluntarily. If not, I'll remind her about that time in college when she took money from your business account for her tuition. Paraphrased. We'll give her one more opportunity to help us on her own. If she doesn't, I'll remind her about the time in college when she took money from your business account for her tuition. Original. She thought we never knew, but we have proof. She have to help us then. Paraphrased. She thought we never found out, but we have proof. She will have no choice but to help us. Original. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. Paraphrased. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing. Original. The money they were talking about, I'd borrowed it with my father's permission when their check for my tuition bounced. Paraphrased. The money they were referring to was something I had borrowed with my father's permission after their tuition check had bounced. Original. I'd even paid it back within a month with interest. I had emails proving everything. Paraphrased. I had even paid it back with interest within a month, and I had the emails to prove it. Original. Their attempted blackmail was as pathetic as it was desperate. Paraphrased. Their pathetic attempt at blackmail showed how desperate they were. Original. And if that doesn't work, Thomas added, we can always reach out to her company's HR department, ask some questions about her mental stability, maybe suggest she's been stealing company resources for personal projects. That would get their attention. Paraphrased, Thomas added, and if that fails, we can always contact her company's HR department, ask about her mental stability, and perhaps suggest she's been stealing company resources for her personal projects. That would surely get their attention. Original. The casual way they discussed destroying my career sent ice through my veins. Paraphrased. The ease with which they talked about destroying my career made me feel a chill run down my spine. Original. These people weren't family. They were parasites wearing family masks. Paraphrased. These people were not family. They were parasites disguised as family. Original. I quietly slipped back to the bathroom, flushed the toilet for show, then returned to the dining room. Paraphrased. I quietly went back to the bathroom, flushed the toilet to make it seem like I'd used it, and then returned to the dining room. Original. They filed back in moments later, all wearing practiced smiles. Paraphrased. A few moments later, they all came back in with rehearsed smiles on their faces. Original. Lindsay, dear. My mother said sweetly, have you given any thought to what we discussed about helping more with the mortgage? Paraphrased. My mother sweetly said, Lindsay, my dear, have you thought about what we talked about regarding helping more with the mortgage? Original. I met her gaze steadily. Paraphrased. I looked her in the eyes. Original. Actually, you're right. Family should help family. I'll have an answer for you in about 8 days. Paraphrased. I said, actually, I have. You are right. Family should help family. I'll have an answer for you in about 8 days. Original. The timing wasn't random. Their mortgage payment was due in 8 days, and I knew exactly what would happen when they missed it. Paraphrased. The timing was not a coincidence. Their mortgage payment was due in 8 days, and I knew precisely what would happen when they failed to pay it. Original. Divine Investments would finally reveal its true ownership. Paraphrased. The true owner of Divine Investments would finally be revealed. Original. 8 days. Thomas frowned. Why such a specific timeline? Paraphrased. Thomas frowned and asked, 8 days? Why that specific amount of time? Original. I stood up, gathering my purse. Just need to check some things with my financial advisor. You understand, right? Being careful with money is just good business sense. Paraphrased. I stood up, grabbing my purse. I just need to look over some things with my financial advisor. You understand, right? It's just good business sense to be careful with money. Original. I smiled at Thomas as I echoed their favorite phrase. Paraphrased. I smiled at Thomas as I repeated their favorite saying. Original. My mother walked me to the door, pulling me into another calculated hug. Paraphrased. My mother walked me to the door and gave me another planned hug. Original. We knew you'd understand, sweetheart. Family always comes first. Paraphrased. We knew you would understand, sweetheart. Family is always the most important thing. Original. Yes, I agreed, thinking of the eviction notice I'd already drafted. Family always gets exactly what they deserve. Paraphrased. I agreed, thinking about the eviction notice I had already written. Family always gets what they deserve. The inevitable Fallout original. As I drove home, I called my Uncle Jason. Paraphrased. On my way home, I called my Uncle Jason. Original. You were right about them, I said when he answered. But don't. Worrying. I'm done playing the silent partner in their little drama. It's time for the final act. Paraphrased. When he answered, I said, you were right about them. But don't worry, I'm no longer going to be a silent partner in their little drama. It's time for the final chapter. Original. The week crawled by with excruciating slowness. Paraphrased. The week passed by at a painstakingly slow pace. Original. My family kept up their pressure campaign, sending daily texts about their urgent financial situation. Paraphrased. My family continued to pressure me, sending me daily texts about their dire financial situation. Original. Each message only strengthened my resolve. Paraphrased. Every message they sent only made me more determined. Original. I forwarded everything to Kate, my financial advisor, who was helping me prepare for the inevitable confrontation. Paraphrased. I forwarded all the messages to my financial advisor, Kate, who was helping me get ready for the inevitable confrontation. Original. The paperwork is ready. Kate confirmed during our meeting 3 days before the payment was due. Paraphrased. 3 days before the payment was due, Kate confirmed. The paperwork is all ready. Original. Once they miss the payment, Divine Investments can exercise its purchase option immediately. I've also prepared the eviction notices, just in case. Paraphrased. Once they miss the payment, Divine Investments can immediately exercise its purchase option. I've also prepared the eviction notices, just in case. Original. I nodded, reviewing the documents. And you're sure everything's legally sound? They can't fight this. Paraphrased. I nodded and looked over the documents. And you're certain that everything is legally sound? They can't fight this. Original. They signed the agreement for years ago, Kate assured me. Your father barely read it. He was too desperate for the bailout. Everything's perfectly legal. Paraphrased. Kate assured me they signed the agreement for years ago. Your father barely read it because he was too desperate for the bailout. Everything is completely legal. Original. That evening, my brother launched his own attack. Paraphrased. That evening, my brother started his own attack. Original. Hey sis, his text read. I was just talking to my friend in tech recruitment. Heard some companies are doing layoffs. Must be scary for you. Good thing you have family to fall back on. Speaking of which, about that help we discussed. Single quotes. Paraphrased. His text said, hey, sis, I was just talking to my friend in tech recruitment and heard that some companies are doing layoffs. That must be scary for you. It's a good thing you have family to fall back on. Speaking of which, about the help we discussed. Single quotes. Original. The attempted manipulation was so transparent it was almost comical. Paraphrased. The attempted manipulation was so obvious it was almost funny. Original. I showed the message to my Uncle Jason over coffee the next day. Paraphrased. I showed the message to my Uncle Jason the next day while we were having coffee. Original. They never change, he said, shaking his head. Your aunt and I watched them do this to everyone in the family. It's why we distanced ourselves years ago. Paraphrased. He shook his head and said, they never change. Your aunt and I have watched them do this to everyone in the family, which is why we distanced ourselves years ago. Original. Did you know they went through my files when I visited? I asked. Paraphrased. I asked, did you know they went through my files when I visited? Original. Not surprised. They did the same to your cousin when she stayed there last year. They're always looking for leverage. He paused. Are you ready for the fallout? They won't take this well. Paraphrased. I'm not surprised. They did the same thing to your cousin when she stayed with them last year. They are always looking for a way to get what they want. He paused. Are you ready for the consequences they are not going to handle? This original. I thought about their threats to contact my company's HR, their plans to blackmail me, their years of taking my help while mocking me behind my back. Paraphrased. I thought about their threats to contact my company's HR, their blackmail plots, and the years of them accepting my help while making fun of me behind my back. Original. I'm ready. They made their choice. Now they'll face the consequences. Paraphrased. I'm ready. They made their decision, and now they will have to face the consequences. Original. 2 days before the payment was due, my mother called. Lindsay, we need your answer about the mortgage help. Times are tough, and family needs to stick together. Paraphrased. 2 days before the payment was due, my mother called. Lindsay, we need your answer about the mortgage help. Times are hard, and family has to stick together. Original. Don't worry, Mom. I replied, my voice steady. Everything will be clear very soon. Paraphrased. I replied, my voice steady. Don't worry, Mom. Everything will be sorted out very soon. Original. That night, I received an email from the family's bank. They tried to transfer money from their account to Divine Investments, but the payment had bounced. Paraphrased. That night, I got an email from the family's bank. They had tried to transfer money from their account to Divine Investments, but the payment had bounced. Original. They were already overdrawn. Paraphrased. Their account was already overdrawn. Original. I forwarded the notification to Kate. Here we go. She replied, want me to start the proceedings tomorrow? Paraphrased. I forwarded the email to Kate. She replied, here we go. Should I start the process tomorrow? Original. I thought about the lasagna dinner, their smug faces, their casual discussion of destroying my career. Paraphrased. I thought about the lasagna dinner, their smug expressions, and how casually they talked about destroying my career. Original. I thought about the years of manipulation, the constant demands, the endless ingratitude. Paraphrased. I thought about the years of manipulation, their constant demands, and their unending ingratitude. Original. No, I typed back. Let's wait until the payment officially fails. Let them spend the next 2 days thinking everything's fine. They taught me timing is everything. Paraphrased. I wrote back, no, let's wait until the payment officially fails. Let them spend the next 2 days believing everything is okay. They taught me a valuable lesson. Timing is everything. Original. I opened my laptop and began drafting an email to my company's HR department, documenting my family's threats and including the evidence Uncle Jason had gathered. Paraphrased. I opened my laptop and started writing an email to my company's HR department. I documented my family's threats and included the evidence that Uncle Jason had collected. Original. Better to get ahead of their potential attacks. Paraphrased. I wanted to get ahead of any potential attacks from them. Original. The end was in sight, and I was leaving nothing to chance. Paraphrased. The end was near, and I was not leaving anything to chance. Original. Sometimes I muttered to myself, the best revenge is simply letting people face the consequences of their own actions. Paraphrased. I muttered to myself, sometimes the best revenge is just allowing people to face the results of their own actions. The confrontation and aftermath. Original. The payment deadline came and went. Paraphrased. The payment deadline passed without them paying. Original. At 9 a.m. sharp, Divine Investments automated system sent out its default notice. Paraphrased. At exactly 9 a.m., Divine Investments automated system sent out its default notice. Original. I watched my phone, counting down the seconds until the inevitable call. Paraphrased. I watched my phone, counting down the seconds until I knew they would call. Original. It took exactly 12 minutes. Paraphrased. It took exactly 12 minutes. Original. Lindsay. My mother's voice was frantic. Something's wrong with our mortgage payment. The bank is saying we defaulted, but that's impossible. We need your help immediately, paraphrased. My mother's frantic voice said, Lindsay. Something is wrong with our mortgage payment. The bank is saying we defaulted, but that can't be right. We need your help right now. Original, actually, I replied calmly, Divine Investments isn't a bank. It's an LLC, my LLC. To be specific, paraphrased, actually, I replied calmly. Divine Investments is not a bank. It's an LLC, my LLC. To be exact, original. The silence on the other end was deafening. Paraphrased, there was a profound silence on the other end of the line. Original. What? She finally whispered. Paraphrased, she finally whispered, what? Original. Check your email. You'll find a notice explaining that due to your default, Divine Investments is exercising its purchase option. The house is now legally mine. Your status has been changed to month-to-month tenants. Paraphrased, check your email. You'll find a notice explaining that since you defaulted on your payment, Divine Investments is using its purchase option. The house is now legally mine, and your status has been changed to month-to-month tenants. Original. This ... this is a joke, she stammered. Paraphrased, she stammered. This has to be a joke. Original, no joke. I've been covering the majority of your mortgage for 4 years while you all mocked me behind my back, called me a burden, plotted to blackmail me, threatened my career. Paraphrased, it's not a joke. I've been paying the majority of your mortgage for 4 years while all of you mocked me, called me a burden, and even tried to blackmail me and threaten my career. Original, how did you? Paraphrased, how did you find out? Original, Uncle Jason showed me the video. He showed me everything. Now about your tenancy. Your first rent payment is due in 30 days. I suggest you start looking for somewhere else to live. Paraphrased, Uncle Jason showed me the video. He showed me all of it. Now regarding your tenancy, your first rent payment is due in 30 days. I suggest you start looking for a new place to live. Original, my father's voice suddenly broke in. They'd put me on speaker. You ungrateful. Paraphrased, my father's voice suddenly cut in. They had put me on speaker. You ungrateful. Original. Careful. I cut him off. Is that any way to talk to your landlord? The eviction notice is ready. Don't make me serve it sooner than planned. Paraphrased, I interrupted him, saying, be careful. Is that the way you should talk to your landlord? The eviction notice is already prepared, so don't make me serve it to you sooner than planned. Original. I ended the call and blocked their numbers. Paraphrased, I hung up and blocked their numbers. Original. Within minutes, my email began filling with messages from flying monkeys, distant relatives, and family friends telling me I was being cruel. That family should forgive family. Paraphrased. Almost immediately, my email started to fill up with messages from flying monkeys, distant relatives, and family friends who were telling me I was being cruel and that family should forgive family. Original. I deleted them all without reading them. Paraphrased. I deleted all of them without reading them. Original. Some debts can't be paid with forgiveness. Paraphrased. I thought some debts cannot be settled with forgiveness. Original. 3 months later, I stood in the empty house, my footsteps echoing through the vacant rooms. Paraphrased. 3 months later, I stood in the empty house, and my footsteps echoed through the vacant rooms. Original. My family had finally moved out last week, forced to downsize to an apartment across town. Paraphrased. My family had finally moved out the week before, forced to move into a smaller apartment on the other side of town. Original. They tried everything, threats, guilt trips, legal challenges, but in the end, the documents were ironclad. Paraphrased. They had tried every possible thing, threats, guilt trips, and legal challenges, but in the end, the documents were legally airtight. Original. They had no choice but to accept reality. Paraphrased. They had no other option but to accept the truth. Original. Thomas's attempt to contact my company's HR had backfired spectacularly thanks to my preemptive documentation and Uncle Jason's evidence. Paraphrased. Thomas's attempt to Contact my company's HR had failed miserably because of the documentation I had already prepared and the evidence from Uncle Jason. Original. His accusations were dismissed immediately. Instead, his actions were reported to his real estate board, leading to an ethics investigation that effectively ended his career. Paraphrased, his accusations were immediately dismissed. Instead, his actions were reported to his real estate board, which led to an ethics investigation that effectively ruined his career. Original. My mother's final attempt at manipulation came through a tear-filled voicemail. How could you do this to your own family? Paraphrased, my mother made one last attempt at manipulation through a tearful voicemail asking, how could you do this to your own family? Original. The answer was simple. They'd shown me exactly what family meant to them, and I'd finally believed them. Paraphrased, the answer was simple. They had shown me exactly what family meant to them, and I finally believed them. Original. I walked through the kitchen where it had all started, where they'd sat around the table calling me worthless while I paid their bills. Paraphrased, I walked through the kitchen where everything had started, where they had sat around the table calling me worthless while I paid their bills. Original. The irony wasn't lost on me. Paraphrased, I was well aware of the irony of the situation. Original. Uncle Jason and his wife were coming over later to help me prepare the house for sale. Paraphrased, my Uncle Jason and his wife were coming over later to help me get the house ready to sell. Original. The proceeds would go to establishing a foundation for helping victims of financial abuse. Paraphrased, the money from the sale would be used to start a foundation to help victims of financial abuse. Original. Something good could come from this after all. Paraphrased, I thought something good could come out of all of this after all. Original. My phone buzzed with a text from Kate. Just heard from their lawyer. They're finally signing the last papers. It's really over. Paraphrased, my phone buzzed with a text from Kate. Just heard from their lawyer. They're finally signing the last of the paperwork. It's truly over. Original. I smiled, looking around at the empty house one last time. Paraphrased, I smiled as I looked around the empty house one last time. Original. They'd taught me that family always comes first, but they'd never specified which family. Paraphrased, they had taught me that family always comes first, but they had never specified which family. Original. I chose myself. And for the first time in years, that felt exactly right. Paraphrased, I had chosen myself, and for the first time in years, it felt like the right thing to do.